So I don't know how well you saw all that, but basically we went from 12 feet to 24 feet. I had to crack the door open to back the truck up. These 4 doors are long. I usually work on classics. Bear with me a second here. Just shutting the door. Hang on. Okay. So basically we have a couple little locks down there. They're just barrel bolts. You see that little plate? Drill the hole. That locks in there. You can see up there, it's like a chain bolt on a spring. You just pull that in and that'll lock right up. And the second door, see, it does the same thing. Now from the outside I have a thing I can close it just for when I'm not in the booth. Here's your filters, so they go right through the middle. And then this is just the rest of the door here. So you got 3-4 feet here. It's 14 feet and an inch, roughly, I guess you could say. Those pieces across the top are 14 feet. It's just a simple cage. So 4-foot section, as you can see, is totally framed and solid. The next 2 sections are just plastic, and see there's a T on this rib just to hold it together. I'm actually going to change that later. Here's another solid one, and here's one that's not solid. It's just plastic, and here's the last one at the wall is solid. What I'm actually going to do is change that so they're solid, non-solid, solid, not anyway. So this one will move, that one won't. That way This one's a bit of a pain in the butt, so if you build this, don't do it the way I did it. Do one solid, one non-solid, and so on. This is okay, but it's a bit of a pain in the butt, so I'll be changing that. I'm actually going to do 3 solid sections out of white steel, and I'm going to put braces on the inside when I do the steel posts, where you can put like a C-channel on it with bolts, so I can do the vinyl from inside and replace it. This is just poly. We're going to do the PVC. Like when you buy one, that's what they do, the portable ones. But as you can see, I'm not doing the front of this, but push come to shove, you could. Now, with most cars, we're good. Like this truck, we'll do the tailgate separate. So here, see, I'm going to probably pull it ahead some, just so I can walk around better. I threw that on there to have my hose hanging when I'm not using it, but really I just leave it on the floor. I'm going to take that away. It collects dust. So what I do is I run this, I turn it on. I built this bank here, so it's got the super thick paint arresters here. These ones are just about done. After this truck, I'm probably going to toss all these. But they work really well. You can stand outside and there's nothing, which is great. And there's a big hole in behind it that goes through the wall. And I've got a steel box unit outside. There's a 20 by 20 that runs to it. Kind of like a duck, like a steel-made duck, instead of just galvanized. And it goes into a big box. And the box basically has a giant fan in it. And then there's a pipe running up the side of the building up top. So the reason I did this is all the booths I looked at, for 2 reasons. I needed at least this size. So you could buy $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 stuff 3 years ago. Solid steel booths. A lot of them are only 20 feet. So as you can see, this is 24 feet. You can see where the door shuts against this bottom. It'd be nice to not have that, but I find I can gasket it better with it. It's more stable. When it's steel, I might not need that across the bottom. We'll see. But you've got a little room back there, a little room here. And you know what? If this was flat against the wall, like if you designed it a little different, you could get away with it. But 2 reasons I built it. I wanted at least 24 feet, but also we're 10 feet high, and my thought was if my door is 10 by 10 and the garage door is 10 by 10, the biggest thing I can get in my building will fit in here. But I mean, I've done a few lifted trucks and stuff like that. I don't know when I do it out of steel if I'll keep it 10 feet tall. It's basically, it's 10 feet to the sheeting up there. So basically 9'8", I guess, to that 2x4 up there. But when I do it out of steel and the plastic comes inside, I might actually drop a foot off this. But we'll see, because one thing I hate with trucks especially, and the newer they get, the taller they get. If you have an 8-foot booth and you have this 2008 Dodge Ram, painting the roof sucks. And what a lot of the body shops are doing, they're buying the little booth and they're basically shooting the roof outside and pulling it into the booth, which sort of negates the whole, let's have a real great booth. So you can see how that's in the center and high. And what it does is it seems to create an envelope of air around the vehicle. So any dust off the plastic or the wood or anything like that doesn't seem to make it to the vehicle. It's a good design that way. But what I should mention, because it's something I've noticed with the vehicle in the middle like that, and I've seen some factory booths that were similar and whatnot, and I looked into that. But like I say, all of them were only 8 feet tall, which kind of sucked. So it's right in the center and it's on the high side and it doesn't go to the floor. So what it does is it's not quite a semi-downdraft. Now, usually you get 8 of these filters in a box. So what I'm going to do, up on the top panel when I go to steel, the other 2 filters will sit up top. So I'll get a little bit out of the top as well as here. That should envelope the whole vehicle. The downside to doing it this way, and then that pulls to the front. So basically, the air comes around the whole vehicle. The dust doesn't seem to hit the vehicle. What does suck with this booth, it's big enough that you can put a lot of parts in it, but you have to be careful because say you put parts down each side, I find what happens, that's where you might get a little bit of dirt in the paint. Because I think the air is getting sucked through the middle. And what's happening is the sides are turbulent. You know, so you probably have less movement out here at the wall, lots of air running through the middle down, and then stuff kind of falls. So something I noticed when I line up like a lot of parts, like I did the Ram Rumblebee, and I think up at the front I had the 2 doors, and then back here, back in the corner here kind of, I had the hood, which I had actually, you can see the yellow on there, I actually had it sitting up against the wall so I could catch the under edge of the hood. Then I dropped it down on a little table platform or whatever and painted it. And on that side of the booth I had the fenders, and I did pull them into the middle as much as I could, you know, without touching them. But there was a little bit of dirt, and it's nothing too crazy, but it's just good to know, so keep that in mind. I run the booth fan wide open, and basically I blow the hell out of the booth as much as I can. Now, if you have a water and a sump pump or something in your shop and you can just hose it all down, maybe that's a better way to go. I do come in here and I soak my floor. So the downside I've noticed, base clear doesn't leave a mess with the wet floor. It just seems to dry and it sweeps away after a couple of sweeps. So you can see the yellow stuff. That's from the Ram Rumblebee. And what happened, I find when you use the urethane single stage, it sits on top of the water. Now you can see where a hose was there, and it just kind of, you know, some of it will come off and some of it won't. But I find that makes a mess. And again, a little bit of gun cleaner or acetone. It does clean up. And quite frankly, if you do absolutely nothing and you do a lot of base clear jobs in and out and whatever, it just seems to wear away. So I'm not overly worried about it, but if you're picky, some people plastic the floor, tape the floor, do whatever to the floor. I gotta be honest, I don't really care. So anyway, that's up to everybody, but whatever. People say, oh, what about the next guy that owns the house? I don't know. My shop's built at the house, and I'll be here till I'm dead, so whatever. But the booth works great. It opens and closes. My building's only 44 long. I had put a video up showing the booth to some degree. The only problem, like I say, I think I had a few comments and a few people sent me messages about, hey, do one where you show how you actually use it. And as you could see in the video earlier, I'm totally by myself. It took a minute or two. I mean, I'm not a production shop, so it's not like it's in and out. Now, I do have enough room. Let's see, if I were, 22 feet would be here. So basically right there to the door, I've got 20 feet, which is lots for, you know, a smaller vehicle or something like that, or a couple parts. But when I'm painting, I work alone, so there's no one in the shop. Everyone, a lot of guys do this, and they're like, I just paint in my open booth. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, they park the car in the corner and they're painting. I know a guy that does a lot of that. He spends a lot of time buffing afterwards. I did that for the first year I was here, kinda. I had a big tarp that dropped down, basically kind of right where this wall is. And basically had a 14-foot gap with I had a bigger filter system, and it kind of worked. But I found you'd still get haze sometimes, and you know, you've got all this. So, you know, I was wetting the floor of the whole shop. I had to put plastic on this car and that car and whatever was in here. Your tools would get a little bit of grit on them from overspray. You're walking around in it, it's probably really bad for you, right? So that was actually the key for me. I thought, if I do this, everything is outside. And the cool thing with this, I've sprayed a car in here and had people hanging out here chilling. They don't smell nothing except when I walk out and open a can or something to fill it. Now, sometimes I'll fill a couple of cups and I'll just bring them in the booth with me. One thing I'd like to do, I kind of use this little short door as the man door. But when I change my metal, when I make 3 of these sections out of metal, this one will be the one that moves. We're now it's solid. This one will be metal. And I'm actually going to put a little door in this so I can have my stuff just sitting out here. And I might do a little zip up room out there just so you can load up a few cups of paint. Because the nice thing with the door being at the front instead of back here, like when I paint and I got to go get more paint, I kind of wait and give it a second, because you want to kind of open the door and not get a bunch of dust in from out there. I do clean out there really well before I paint, just in case it helps. But If the door were at the front here and we're close to this, like I say, because you have that tunnel air around the vehicle. Now with the door, in a vehicle it's okay, but with parts it's not. But I'm hoping if I have the door up here, we're close enough. Like what are we? Right, so basically the door goes here. There's your filter bank. So anything that comes in that door is just going to get sucked right into the bank right away. You shut the door and it'll keep pulling from the front. Anyway, so I hope that answers some questions. But that's the booth. I gotta say, I went from lots of dirt that I had to clean and buff out to sometimes I drive right out of the booth and send them on their way. So if you don't want to spend even $4 or $5 grand on a used booth, $7, $8 grand on a really cheap, way too small booth, whatever. Of course, it depends where you live, what you can get away with, what you're allowed. Like I had to ask permission for this, and because I work alone, they said as long as you're filtering what goes outside, yada yada. So that to them, that filter bank was super important. As for the rest of this, they didn't seem to care one way or the other. But you know, if you were in Toronto, property lines and everything, there's a lot of different stuff. So know that. But yeah, this is technically portable. There's literally, I think 2, maybe 3 screws at the back. You pull those out, this whole thing will fold up and you can pretty much just collapse it. If you look at Global Industries, they make a metal version of something similar to this. And last time I looked, 2-3 years ago, they were like 25 thou. But they took up more room because the back was separated as well. You couldn't just set it to the wall with a gasket. So what they had done is closed it. They had a zip-up door in the middle. There was this whole unit that hooks up to your duct. And it's just expensive. So look into it, find the filters, see what's available in your area. Ask the guy who sells the filters what you got to use. He'll show you, because you can put these in. And a lot of guys say, oh, there's the paper ones you roll out, it's way cheaper. That's true if you're shooting a lot and a lot and a lot. But if you're doing restos and the odd hot rod, and you know, I do a dozen a year maybe, and 2-3 of them that are older. So this is perfect for me. These are the filters that I need in this area. Now, if you're in an area where they want more than that, where you have your holes going through the wall or in your box, there's also 20 by 20. It looks like a big sock, and it's full of charcoal. You can put those in behind, and then that, you know, takes you to another level. But it just depends where you are, what you need. Your filter guy, your body shop supply, whoever has it, they'll have all that info. Just look into it, depending where you are, right? You know. Nice thing with this, you're not freaking your neighbors out or anything like that. So anyway, that's the booth. Hope you enjoyed the video.